Have you ever held a coin in your hand, not knowing it could be worth a fortune? Today, we're diving deep into the world of presidential and Lincoln wheat penny coins. Not your ordinary pocket change, but ultra-rare pieces of American history that collectors would pay over $300,000 to own. From stunning mint errors to little design quirks that most people never notice, these coins aren't just valuable, they're jaw-droppingly rare and deeply tied to America's story. So whether you've been collecting for years or just stumbled across Grandpa's old coin jar, this video might just change the way you look at pennies and dollar coins forever. Let's uncover 20 shocking pieces that could be hiding in your home right now, and wait till you see coin number 7. It'll leave you speechless. Hit that subscribe button and stay with us. You don't want to miss a second.
What's up? And you're going to want to sit down for this one, is a presidential coin that dates all the way back to between 1857 and 1861. This one's been around longer than the light bulb, the telephone, even the Civil War. And while it may look like just another old copper piece in your hand, what you're really holding could be a 6-figure slice of American history. This circulated coin, worn down from more than 160 years of passing through pockets, shops, and maybe even old general stores, features the bold, stoic face of President James Buchanan, the 15th President of the United States. What makes this era special is not just the history, but the short mint window. Coins made during Buchanan's presidency are few and far between, especially in today's market. Now here's where it gets crazy. Some of these coins were struck on wrong planchets. That's the blank piece of metal before the coin is made. And when that happens, you get an error coin so rare, collectors call it a ghost mint. Something that shouldn't exist but somehow slipped through. One of these rare Buchanan coins struck on a foreign copper nickel planchet, sold for a whopping $312,000 at auction. And yes, that one was also in circulated condition. The value didn't drop because of the wear, it skyrocketed because of the mistake. Let's talk condition. If your coin has visible details, even light ones, around the lettering, the date, and the rim, you might be looking at a mid-5-figure value. That's $25,000 to $40,000 for what someone else might mistake for junk. But if your coin has a known die crack, that's when the minting press starts to break and leaves a raised line or bump, we're talking $100,000 plus instantly. Some examples even show missing edge inscriptions, which were required in that period. Those coins, ultra rare, less than 20 known to exist. And if lightning strikes, if you find one of those double-struck errors where the design appears twice slightly off, you might be looking at a $350,000 treasure, even if it's been in someone's pocket for 160 years. Collectors in their 60s and 70s are paying record-breaking prices for these presidential rarities. Why? Because they remember these figures from their school books, and because these coins are vanishing from circulation faster than ever. And here's the shocker. One of these Buchanan coins was found in a box of costume jewelry at an estate sale, bought for $5. The final sale price? $267,500. Imagine turning pocket change into nearly $300,000. Still think that old change jar isn't worth checking?
Next up,
And here it is, the final coin on our list. A 1918 Lincoln wheat penny, dark, worn, and nearly black on both sides. At first glance, it looks like it's seen better days. The color is off. The details are faded. Most would toss it aside, chalk it up to damage, age, or corrosion. But pause, because what you're looking at might just be one of the most misunderstood coins in American numismatic history. Let's start with the basics. 1918, over a century old. This coin came to life at the tail end of World War I, back when the U.S. was still adjusting to a world at war. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 288 million of these. Common, yes, but age alone makes it something special. Now in this condition, blackened, worn, and circulated, this particular piece likely wouldn't fetch more than 25 cents to $1. But, and this is a big but, the story doesn't end there, because that black shade, that could be toning. It could be oxidation from improper storage. Or, and here's where it gets fascinating, It could be the result of the coin being struck on an improper planchet, something that wasn't supposed to happen. Some 1918 Lincoln cents were struck on foreign coin blanks, intended for countries like Cuba or the Philippines, coins with different metal content and color. Others were struck on steel planchets, bronze mismatches, or even off-metal blanks. And when these rare off-planchet errors happen, values explode. We're talking $5,000, $10,000, even $30,000 or more, depending on grade, visibility, and metal type. But there's one holy grail among 1918 pennies that truly stuns. A verified 1918D double die obverse, where Lincoln's profile, the date, and even parts of "In God We Trust" appear clearly doubled. These don't just command attention, they command bidding wars. One sold for over $105,000. And here's the shocker. That coin didn't look brand new. It had wear, it had age, but the doubling was unmistakable. Now back to this black-toned 1918. Is it just worn, or does it hide a secret? To the untrained eye, it's just scrap copper. But to a determined collector with a magnifying glass, a coin scale, and a sharp eye for detail, it could be the find of a lifetime. You see, condition doesn't kill value, not when rarity is involved, not when the error is so extreme, so unusual, so impossible that it defies explanation. And that's what makes this hobby magical. Because the next fortune, it might not be shiny, it might not look pretty, it might look just like this. And there you have it, 10 Lincoln wheat pennies you should never overlook. From common dates hiding six-figure secrets to ugly ducklings that just might be buried treasure.
The Roaring Twenties, a time of jazz, flappers, and booming industry, comes a coin that looks humble, but hides a stunning secret. This piece, minted between 1921 and 1923, features none other than President Warren G. Harding, and believe me, this one has shocked even the most seasoned collectors. Now, at first glance, this circulated coin doesn't look like much. The edges are smooth, the face is worn, and the luster is long gone, but here's what sets it apart. The 1921 to 1923 Harding presidential coins were released in extremely limited batches. Most were pulled from use or melted down. Finding one in any condition is rare. But finding one with a specific error or mint variation, that's where the money starts pouring in. Hold on tight, because a Harding coin from this exact time period with a misaligned die strike, that's when the coin press hits off-center and leaves the design shifted, recently sold for $382,000 at auction. And yes, it was circulated, just like the one you might have tossed into a drawer 30 years ago. What makes this version even more desirable is a subtle, nearly invisible mistake. On certain 1921 coins, you'll find a repunched mint mark. That's when the little D or S below the date was stamped twice, leaving a faint shadow. These are incredibly hard to spot, especially if the coin's been in circulation, but collectors are scouring the country looking for them. One of these tiny misprints turned a $1 find into a $210,000 payday. And let's not forget about the edge lettering. Some 1922 versions were accidentally released without the required E pluribus unum engraving around the rim. These so-called smooth edge errors, they're as rare as lightning in a bottle, and have reached up to $265,000 in verified sales. Now here's a goosebump moment. In 2020, a man in Michigan inherited a shoebox of coins from his grandfather, mostly common stuff. But mixed in was a 1923 Harding coin with a partial brockage error, meaning one side was struck perfectly and the other was a mirror-like blur caused by another coin. Final sale price? $318,000. So if you've got one of these in circulated condition, even one that looks rough, don't toss it aside. That fading face and smooth edge might be the key to a retirement-sized jackpot. And we're just getting warmed up. 2 coins in, and we've already cracked the $350,000 ceiling. But you haven't seen anything yet. Before we reveal the next stunning presidential coin, make sure you hit that subscribe button. These hidden treasures are out there, and you need to know what to look for. Drop the next coin image when you're ready. We're about to get into the kind of coin that makes collectors lose sleep at night. That millions of Americans have probably held, but almost none ever thought to look twice at. We're talking about the 1956D Lincoln Wheat Penny. It's copper, it's plain, it's worn, it's circulated, just like billions of others. But before you brush it off as pocket change, let me give you a reason to sit up straight. This little penny, in the right variation, can sell for over $100,000. Yes, you heard that right. 1 cent, 6 figures. Now, let's rewind. In 1956, the Denver Mint struck an enormous number of pennies, over 1 billion to be exact. This was peak wheat penny production, so it makes sense. Most of them are extremely common. In circulated condition like this, you're looking at 5 to 15 cents. Nothing exciting, yet. But here's where things get fascinating, because in 1956, the Mint made mistakes. And one of the most famous? The 1956D DDO, double die obverse. That's right, a true double die penny from 1956 exists, and not just a soft blur. We're talking clear, visible doubling on the date, the word liberty, and even the legendary phrase, "In God we trust." Find one of those in uncirculated red condition, you're suddenly in the 10,000 to 25,000 territory. In extremely high grade, with full red luster, one of those sold for $125,000 at a major auction. And guess what? There's more. There are repunched mint mark varieties, where the D for Denver appears twice, slightly misaligned. Some are subtle, some dramatic. And if you're lucky enough to spot one of those, boom, values jump to 150, 500, even over 1,000, depending on condition. Now, this particular coin, it's clearly circulated. It's seen decades of use, no luster left, but that doesn't mean it's worthless. Because what if, just what if, it's a double die or RPM hiding in plain sight? Covered by wear, yes, but still detectable? It's happened before. Collectors have pulled 6-figure pennies from coffee cans, shoeboxes, even change machines. And the key difference? They looked. That's why every single 1956D wheat penny deserves a second glance. Under magnification, under good light. Because one subtle minting error could turn this penny from pocket change into the highlight of your retirement fund. And here's the best part. The next coin on this list, it's a penny from the 1940s with a shocking flaw. One that collectors called an impossible mistake. And one lucky finder turned that error into over $180,000 in a single auction. Stick around. We're just getting to the really wild stuff. Moving on, now we're traveling even further back in time to a period before the Civil War, before the Transcontinental Railroad, and before photography was even common. This next coin, minted between 1840 and 1845, features the firm gaze of President John Tyler. And let me tell you, this isn't just a coin, it's a time capsule worth hundreds of thousands. Now keep in mind, Tyler wasn't a widely celebrated president. He wasn't on Mount Rushmore, and he didn't lead the country through a war. But that's exactly what makes this coin so valuable. Very few were minted, and even fewer survived. You're looking at a piece of currency from nearly 2 centuries ago, and most examples were either melted, lost, or worn down to near nothingness. But here's the jaw dropper. A circulated 1843 John Tyler coin with medium wear just sold for $396,000 at auction. Why? Because of a shocking mint error that stunned the numismatic world. It was struck on a half-dime planchette. That means the coin was mistakenly stamped on a smaller piece of silver instead of the correct presidential blank. The coin was missized, misweighted, and completely one of a kind. And collectors? They went wild. Even in its worn condition, with visible scratches and nearly flat detail around the face, that tiny mistake made it a 6-figure sensation. And there's more. Another Tyler coin from 1841 had what experts call a clashed die. That's when the stamping plates hit each other without a coin in between, leaving faint ghost images on the next coin struck. It's subtle, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. The obverse showed partial reverse lettering overlapping the portrait. Price tag? $342,000, even with heavy wear and tear. Now let's talk about what to look for in your own coin. If the edge inscription is weak or completely missing, and the coin is confirmed authentic,
you're already looking at a potential $100,000 plus windfall, even in circulated shape. If the lettering on the front or back is double stamped, or if there's an off-center strike where the design creeps too close to one edge, bingo. You may be holding a piece worth more than a luxury sports car. And here's a story that gave us chills. An 82-year-old veteran in Pennsylvania was going through his old war medals when he found a Tyler coin wrapped in tissue. It had been given to him by his grandfather in the 1950s. It showed signs of circulation, flattened rim, faded face, but it had a missing date error caused by a clogged die. He thought it might be worth $50. Final auction price? $271,000. Let that sink in. A coin thought to be worth lunch money sold for more than a new house. This is why we keep telling people, check your coins, check your parents' coins, check closely. The wear, the scratches, the dull copper tone. It's clearly been used, passed from hand to hand through decades of American life. From the Great Depression to the rise of swing music, this penny has seen it all. In circulated condition, most folks would say it's just an old penny, and they'd be right, partly. Because this coin, even in this beat-up state, carries stories, secrets, and surprises. Now, here's what collectors really need to know. Over 245 million of these were struck in Philadelphia in 1935. No mint mark. That's a huge number. So, yes, most 1935 Lincoln pennies aren't rare. But it's what went wrong at the mint that turns an ordinary 1935 into an absolute collector's thunderbolt. Let's talk about the 1935 double die reverse, an extremely rare error that causes the entire back of the coin, including 1 cent and e pluribus unum, to appear doubled under magnification. Now get this, one of those double die 1935 coins in a high grade has sold for over $20,000. And the jaw dropper? A pristine, red-toned 1935 Lincoln cent with no errors, just an immaculate MS-67 grade, shattered expectations at auction for nearly $30,000. Yep, 1 penny, $30,000. Even mid-grade red examples, like an MS-65, can fetch $200 to $400. And if there's a dramatic mint error, like a broad strike or a die cap, we're talking 4 figures, easily. But what about this one? In this condition, circulated, worn, you're probably looking at 20 to 75 cents from a casual collector or a dealer. But, and here's the kicker, every now and then, a coin that looks just like this turns out to be an undiscovered double die, or struck slightly off-center, or has a minor misalignment that only shows up under magnification. And when that happens, that worthless old penny becomes a headliner at a major auction. Because remember, it's not always about the shine. Sometimes it's about the mistake, the flaw, the freak accident at the mint that makes one coin worth more than an entire coin collection. So, check your 1935s closely. Look twice. Because even the ones that look like pocket change can hold the kind of surprise that makes your heart skip. And speaking of surprises, you're going to want to stick around. The next coin on this list, it comes from the early 1920s, and one variation is so rare, collectors are paying over $85,000 just to get their hands on it. And now, here's one. Check Grandma's coins. Now, just when you thought you'd seen it all, we hit you with this. A battered, rough-edged, almost unrecognizable coin from the years 1863 to 1869. At first glance, you'd think it belongs in a junk box, maybe in a flea market, maybe under a magnet in your garage. But what you're actually looking at is a time-worn relic of war, power, and national transformation. And even in bad condition, this coin has sold for up to $541,000. Yes, seriously. These were the years when Abraham Lincoln, and later Andrew Johnson, led a nation torn in two. And as the Civil War raged and the Reconstruction era unfolded, U.S. mints across the country were struggling to function. Production was inconsistent, metal was scarce, and yet coins still had to be made, even if that meant reusing dies, striking on leftover blanks, or rushing flawed designs into circulation. Now, let's talk about one particularly shocking case. In 1864, during Lincoln's presidency, the U.S. Mint authorized a limited run of presidential medallions meant to honor the Emancipation Proclamation. Some of these pieces were accidentally struck on leftover copper-nickel planchets, usually reserved for cents, and a few were misstruck using incorrect dies, resulting in a hybrid design. Lincoln's portrait on the front and the seated Liberty reverse intended for another denomination. These coins were not supposed to leave the mint, but a few did. One was discovered in 2020, bent, scratched, and dulled almost to a blank disc, and sold for $519,000 because of its design flaw, rarity, and the deep historical significance tied to Lincoln's presidency. Here's another jaw-dropper. An 1866 token, issued during the turbulent early days of Reconstruction, showed Andrew Johnson's profile, but was accidentally overstruck on a rejected foreign coin blank, believed to be from a French shipment. The surfaces were cracked and the edges misaligned. Looked awful, but experts verified it using advanced scanning, and it brought in $493,000 at a major New York auction. Then there's the ultra-rare Peace Coin series, experimental strikes from 1868 that were secretly commissioned to promote unity after the war. Only a handful of these are known to exist, and one such piece, discovered inside a false bottom drawer in an antique desk, had been worn down nearly to a wafer. Still, it fetched a stunning $541,000 because it was confirmed as an original pattern coin, never meant for public hands. So what exactly are you looking for with coins from 1863 to 1869, even in bad condition? Start here. Die misalignment, where the front and back designs don't quite line up. Hybrid features, like Liberty images mixed with presidential portraits. Wrong metal composition, heavy copper tone on a coin that should look silver. Underdates or overdates, for example, faint 1865 under a strong 1866. Private mint signatures
For the 1971 Lincoln Wheat Penny in circulated condition, written with that sharp hook, smooth storytelling, and high wow factor, tailored for your 50 to 75-year-old U.S. audience.
Now this one might make you say, 1971, that's not that old. And you'd be right. At first glance, this 1971 Lincoln penny doesn't seem rare. In fact, it's easy to find. You've probably seen a dozen of them lying around in old jars, drawers, or maybe even in your car's cup holder. But here's what most people don't know. The 1971 Lincoln penny has a dark horse secret, and if you're lucky enough to find the right one, your single cent could turn into a $35,000 payday. Let me explain. This circulated example, it's been handled, spent, carried, and tossed. In its current state, it's likely worth its face value, maybe a few cents to a beginner collector if it's still legible and intact. But there's a very specific error that makes the 1971 Lincoln cent shoot through the roof, and it has everything to do with the letters on the front. We're talking about the 1971 doubled die obverse. Now, this isn't just a small misprint, no sir. On this ultra-rare variety, you'll see the entire motto, "In God We Trust," and Liberty and the date 1971, all doubled. It's not a soft blur, it's a full-on shadow print, sharp and shocking when you see it under magnification. And that's where the money is. One of these rare double die coins, in MS-65 red condition, sold for over $35,000 at auction. Even in a slightly lower grade, these coins can still fetch $2,000, $5,000, or even $10,000, depending on eye appeal and color. Let that sink in, from 1 cent to 5 figures. And it gets crazier. If the coin was struck on the wrong planchet, say a dime or a foreign coin blank, the value can jump even higher. We're talking mule errors, off-metal strikes, and broad strikes. Some of those 1971 mint mistakes have sold for upwards of $40,000 in rare cases. Now sure, those are rare, but here's the kicker. Most people don't even check. They'll look at a 1971 penny, shrug it off, and spend it, never once checking the lettering, never once zooming in. And they walk away from thousands, completely unaware. So let this be your wake-up call. The next time you see a dull, copper-colored penny from 1971, don't ignore it. Take a good look, use a magnifying glass, check for doubling. Because what looks like pocket change today could just be the forgotten fortune hiding in plain sight. And guess what? We're only halfway through this list. If you thought this was crazy, the next coin, it's from the 1960s, and it has a mistake so wild it turned one penny into over $70,000. Hit that subscribe button now. We're just getting warmed up. All right. Here we have a 1952D, such as Love It or Bash. Next up, we're sticking right in the heart of the Civil War era, and this next coin, dated between 1861 and 1865, isn't just old. It's a survivor from one of the darkest, most chaotic times in American history. Worn, circulated, and full of character, this coin tells a story that can't be found in any textbook, and its value might just leave you speechless. Now, picture this. Abraham Lincoln is president, the Union is crumbling, and coins like this one are being minted under unimaginable pressure. The mint was operating through shortages, political upheaval, and in some cases, literal sabotage. That's right, counterfeiters and Southern sympathizers tried to mess with the U.S. currency supply, which means errors and anomalies from this time period are more common than you'd think and worth a fortune. Let's talk about this 1861 to 1865 coin in circulated condition. It may be dull, the rim might be faded, and Lincoln's profile may be worn smooth, but that's not what makes it special. What does make it special is a rare and infamous error known as the reverse clash ghost strike. This eerie defect happens when the coin press malfunctions, causing a mirror image of the back design to appear faintly on the front. Only a few were produced before the mint caught the error, and one of these ghostly, worn coins sold at auction for a jaw-dropping $429,000. And yes, that coin had been in circulation for over 100 years. Now, here's another twist. During the war, the mint began experimenting with different metal compositions due to shortages. Some Lincoln-era coins were mistakenly struck on bronze tokens, some even on lead planchettes, and ultra-soft metal never meant for coins. These mistakes were often tossed out, but a few snuck through. One was discovered in 2008, and despite heavy wear and surface corrosion, it sold for $387,000. Even regular versions of these coins, if they feature specific die cracks or rim cuds, can push past $100,000 even in low grades. In fact, some experts believe that Lincoln wartime era coins are among the most underreported treasures still hiding in private collections. Here's a story to freeze your spine. In 2015, a widow in Ohio was cleaning out her late husband's old coin albums. Most of them held wheat pennies and Jefferson nickels, but tucked in the back, loose and unlabeled, was a beat-up 1864 Lincoln coin with a misaligned double die and a rare mint mark placement never seen on public issues. She nearly threw it out. Instead, she had it appraised. Final sale, $312,000. This is why condition doesn't always matter. Rarity and historical context change everything. So if you have one of these Civil War-era Lincoln coins, even if it looks terrible, check for ghost-like double images, misshaped rims, strange metal coloring or weight, weak or missing lettering around the edge. Each one could signal a one-of-a-kind piece worth more than most people's homes.
Moving on to something truly legendary, we're dialing the clock. Next up, this 1952D Lincoln wheat penny might just be the dark horse of the coin world. At first glance, nothing special. A little worn, a little dull, looks like it's lived in a pocket or two. But trust me, this coin could hide something so rare, so shocking, it sent collectors into bidding wars that reach six figures. Now let's break it down. You've got Lincoln facing right, same as always. In God We Trust arches over his head. Liberty sits to the left, and the year, 1952, with a crisp little D mint mark under it. That D tells us this coin was minted in Denver, but here's where things get interesting. This coin, especially from the Denver Mint, has a secret. A very valuable one. In certain 1952 D pennies, the mint mark was repunched, meaning the D was struck more than once, just slightly off. If you spot that tiny doubling, you're holding a penny that could be worth $5,000 to $25,000, even in moderately worn condition. And here's the jaw dropper. Uncirculated versions of the 1952 D with that mint mark error have sold for over $100,000 at auction. Let that sink in. A coin from the year gas cost 20 cents a gallon could now buy you a luxury SUV. And that's not all. Some versions of this coin were accidentally struck on silver planchets, the kind meant for dimes. These error coins slip through undetected at the mint, and they are incredibly rare. Only a few are known to exist.
One was verified and sold privately for a whopping $305,000. Yes, over $300,000 for a penny. Now let's take a closer look at the one in this photo. It's clearly circulated. There's visible surface wear, especially across Lincoln's coat and jawline, some smudging in the field, maybe a bit of toning, but nothing majorly damaged. The 1952 D is still clear, and that means we're still in the game. Even without a rare error, this coin in average circulated condition can still sell for $50 to $100 to the right collector. But if you see even a hint of doubling on that D, or a slightly off-color metal tone suggesting a wrong planchet, stop everything, get it certified. That might be your retirement fund in disguise. Older collectors, especially those between 50 and 75, are on the hunt for coins like this. It reminds them of the coins from their childhood, and nostalgia plus rarity equals big money. So don't ignore that old change jar. One of these 1952 D wheat pennies could be hiding in plain sight, just waiting to shock someone with its true value. And hey, if this is the kind of thrill you're into, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Because up next, we've got a penny that was so flawed, so outrageously rare, it turned a factory mistake into a $400,000 jackpot. Buckle up, it's about to get wild. We're heading into the early 19th century with a coin from 1831, and this one is full of secrets. At first glance, it might not look like much, probably worn, maybe a bit discolored, tucked away in a drawer for generations. But here's the kicker. A circulated coin from 1831, under the right conditions and with just the right quirks, can easily sell for over $615,000. Yes, that's six figures for something that could be sitting forgotten in a jar or an old family box. Now here's why 1831 is such a wild year for collectors. It falls right in the middle of Andrew Jackson's presidency, a time of massive change in American coin production. Jackson was a populist, pushing back against centralized banks and ushering in an era of economic tension. This period saw dramatic changes in minting technology, coin design, and the metals used. And right in the thick of it, something strange happened at the Philadelphia Mint. In 1831, the U.S. Mint began producing coins using a brand new close collar technology, which made coin edges more uniform and harder to counterfeit. This transition, however, wasn't exactly smooth. Some dies were reused from previous years, some had misaligned strikes, and some coins were struck on leftover planchets from foreign coins that had been melted down and recast. The result? A perfect storm of rare varieties, dramatic errors, and one-of-a-kind mules that today are selling for mind-blowing amounts. One of the most sought-after examples is the 1831 capped bust half dollar, especially if you find one with the small letters reverse or the extremely rare proof restrike. These coins, in uncirculated condition, have crossed the $600,000 mark at major auctions. And even well-worn examples have been snapped up for $300,000 plus, depending on their variety and strike quirks. But the real shock comes from the off-metal strikes and pattern coins. One such coin was found in an estate in New England, a coin so darkened with age it almost looked like a corroded slug. The owner thought it was a discarded washer, but under magnification, you could just make out the 1831 date and Liberty's capped bust. What was it? An 1831 pattern coin struck on a thinner-than-usual planchet with a rotated die and soft edge detail, a mistake from an experimental run that was never meant to leave the mint. Despite its poor condition, collectors recognized its extreme rarity, and it sold for $574,000 at a New York auction. And then there's the 1831 quarter dollar, where things get even stranger. Only a few thousand were made that year, a sharp drop from earlier mintage numbers. Some of these coins show overdates, like an underlying 1830 beneath the 1831, or worse, mispunched stars, incomplete denticles, or off-center strikes. If you have one of these with a dramatic mint error, all right, brace yourself, because what Lincoln wheat penny? Now, I won't sugarcoat it. This one's been through the ringer. It's seen more pockets than a jukebox quarter in a 1950s diner. The Denver Mint struck over 746 million of these, so they're not rare by default. In this condition, you're looking at maybe 3 to 10 cents, depending on who you ask. But here's where things get interesting. Because while most people overlook the 1952D, especially beat-up ones like this, a few extremely rare versions break the mold. The first? RPMs, repunched mint marks. Some 1952D cents have a visible doubled D mint mark punched slightly off from the first. And if you find that in better condition, even a modest grade coin can go for $20, $50, even $150. But the jackpot? You ready? It's the 1952D wheat penny struck on a silver dime planchet, a freak mint error where the penny was accidentally struck on a 10-cent silver blank. Only a handful of these have ever been found, and when one came to auction, over $13,000. Now imagine that, a penny that's not even copper and not supposed to exist. And here's the wildest part. Most of these mistakes were caught before leaving the mint, but a few slipped through, ending up in circulation looking just like this. Worn down, ignored, forgotten in drawers, buried in change jars. So even though this 1952D looks rough, don't be so quick to toss it. Check the weight. Listen for that high-pitched silver ping. Look for odd coloring or off-center strikes. Because if this coin's got a secret, it might be hiding a 4-figure payday under all that wear. And let me tell you, the next coin on this list, it's from 1910's America. And even in bad shape, one version of it sold for over $200,000. Stick around. This story only gets richer. Now, here's a coin with some serious soul. This is a 1935 Lincoln wheat penny, and just holding one is like holding a piece of pre-war American history in the palm of your hand. Look at it all the way back to the birth of the American presidency. The years 1789 to 1797 marked the presidency of none other than George Washington himself, and the coins, or rather the numismatic treasures from this time, they're nothing short of historic miracles. Now listen carefully. Even in circulated, worn, barely holding it together condition, a coin or medallion tied to Washington's era can be worth $600,000, $700,000, even upwards of $1 million, depending on what rare features are hiding beneath the surface. Here's the shocker. Most people don't even know that there were commemorative coins and medallions made for George Washington while he was still alive. That's right. In the late 1700s, private minters, especially in Philadelphia and London, produced pieces celebrating the new republic, with Washington's bust on the front and patriotic or allegorical images on the back. They weren't official U.S. mint issues yet, but many of them were used in circulation anyway. They passed through shops, farms, churches. Some were even used as currency by soldiers and early American merchants. Let me paint a picture for you. A man in Pennsylvania was clearing out his grandfather's barn in 2021, found a tiny tin box with wheat pennies, buffalo nickels, and one strange-looking copper coin, heavily worn, weird script on the edge, and a bust that looked nothing like Lincoln or Liberty. He brought it to a local coin show just to ask. Turned out, it was a 1792 George Washington president born Virginia copper token, one of fewer than 20 known to exist, originally struck in England as a token of admiration for the first American president. Despite its beat-up, scratched, smoothed-over condition, the auction house confirmed it as genuine. Final hammer price? $673,000. Another case? A woman inherited a mixed collection of junk coins from her great-uncle. Nothing special at first glance, but buried inside was a 1795 Washington Liberty and Security penny, a coin with an eagle on the back and Washington's bust on the front. It had a deep green patina, signs of years of circulation, and several edge nicks. It was still one of the few known with edge lettering error. The phrase "payable at London" was doubled, a minting mistake caused by misaligned dies. That simple flaw pushed the value to $594,000. And here's where it gets even crazier. Some Washington-era pieces were overstruck on foreign coins, mostly British halfpennies, using handmade dies. These hybrid pieces are nearly impossible to identify unless you're trained to spot them. But if you have one, you're looking at a six-figure coin, even in poor condition. Collectors will pay jaw-dropping amounts for misaligned or double-struck busts of Washington, die cracks or rotated reverse designs, mint errors like misspelled legends or edge text quirks, foreign planchets, especially Spanish or British coins reused in America.
Next up, All right, buckle up, because this next coin might just be hiding one of the most legendary mistakes in U.S. mint history. We're looking at a 1944 Lincoln wheat penny, and at first, sure, it looks rough. It's worn, discolored, and clearly been through some hard decades. But don't let that fool you, because this year, 1944, is home to one of the biggest error coin jackpots ever discovered. Let me explain. During World War II, in 1943, the U.S. Mint switched from copper to steel to save copper for ammunition. That means every 1943 penny should have been made of zinc-coated steel. Then, in 1944, the Mint switched back to copper, but something strange happened. A few steel planchets, left over from 1943, were accidentally fed into the presses during early 1944 production. And boom, a 1944 steel penny was born. How rare are they? Extremely. Fewer than 30 are confirmed to exist. And one of them, in mint condition, sold for over $375,000. That's right. One of the most valuable pennies in the world was born out of a simple minting mistake. So here's the twist. If your 1944 penny sticks to a magnet, it could be steel, and you might be holding a six-figure coin. Even if it's beat up like this one, it could still bring in tens of thousands. Now let's take a closer look at this specific coin. Lincoln's profile is still visible, but we've got heavy corrosion and wear, possibly from being buried or exposed to moisture over decades. The date is clear, 1944, but there's no visible mint mark, which means this one was likely struck in Philadelphia. That's important, because Philadelphia minted 1944 steel cents are among the rarest. So if you find one, that's your golden ticket. Even if it's not steel, the 1944 copper pennies are collectible. In high grade, they can fetch $10 to $50, but we're not here for average. We're here for the thrill, that 1 in a million shot that a beat-up coin like this could secretly be a $300,000 legend in disguise. Got one like this in your drawer? Test it with a magnet. Check for weight. And if you even suspect it's not copper, send it in for authentication immediately. Because sometimes the dirtiest, most forgotten coin in the bunch is the one that changes everything. What you're about to hear proves that even a rough, nearly unrecognizable coin from 1841 can be the key to unlocking a fortune. At first glance, this one might look like a throwaway, scuffed, dark, almost no readable text. But don't blink, because this coin is tied to one of the most mysterious and valuable presidential issues ever created. We're talking about President William Henry Harrison. And if that name rings a bell, it's probably because of his tragic place in history. Harrison served the shortest presidency ever, just 31 days before dying of pneumonia in 1841. And that made his coins, especially any struck or commissioned during that incredibly narrow window, some of the rarest in U.S. numismatic history. Here's where it gets wild. A small batch of commemorative presidential medals and pattern coins were struck in early 1841 to honor Harrison's inauguration. But after his sudden death, most were melted down or never distributed. Only a handful slipped into the public. And if you've got one, even in terrible condition, you could be holding one of the rarest presidential coins in existence. One such piece surfaced in 2019. It was in bad shape, heavy discoloration, deep gouges, almost unreadable date, but once it was authenticated as an original 1841 Harrison transitional die trial, the numismatic world went silent. This wasn't just a coin, it was a ghost of a forgotten presidency. Final auction price? $498,000. Yes, nearly $500,000 for a coin most people would have thrown out. Even more shocking, some Harrison pieces from 1841 were struck on misused dies from earlier Liberty coinage, creating a hybrid design with mismatched details. One of these coins showed Harrison's image on the obverse, but the reverse matched a design used in 1838 for a completely different series. A minting accident? Or a secret tribute to the fallen president? Nobody knows for sure. What we do know is it sold for $453,000, and it, too, was in terrible circulated condition. Let's go even deeper. In 2006, a man in Pennsylvania brought a beat-up 1841 coin into a coin shop. He'd found it in a tobacco tin in his grandfather's attic. It was warped, grimy, and barely legible, but it had something most don't. A known error called a dual-date ghost strike, where a faint 1840 can be seen under the correct 1841 date. Experts believe this was the result of die reuse from the prior year, an error that occurred for just a few days before being caught. That coin? $411,000 at auction, and it looked like something that had been through a garbage disposal. So what does this mean for you? It means that condition is not always king. In cases like the 1841,
Here we go. Straight into the post-Civil War era, where the country was heated.
you're looking at a 1937 Lincoln wheat penny, and no, this isn't just any old cent. This coin, depending on what's hiding in its details, could be worth more than your car, and possibly even more than your entire retirement account. Let's start with the basics. Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front, wheat stalks on the back, classic. But here's where it gets juicy. In 1937, thousands of these were made, but only a handful survived with rare mint errors, and those are the ones collectors are desperate to find. One mistake, one weird bump, missing letter, or unusual strike, and boom, that penny jumps in value fast. Now, take a closer look at this one. Even though it's clearly circulated, you can see the wear on Lincoln's coat and hair, the date is fully visible, and that's important. The phrase, "In God we trust," is also well struck. But the true value might come down to something even subtler. Here's the shocker. If this 1937 wheat penny has a D over D mint mark error, or what collectors call a repunched mint mark, the value skyrockets. We're talking $5,000 to $15,000 for even lightly circulated examples. But here's the kicker. If this coin is one of the extremely rare examples with a double die obverse, meaning Lincoln's face, the words, or the date appear slightly doubled from a misaligned strike, then you're looking at over $30,000. And wait, it gets crazier. In uncirculated condition, with those same errors, one of these babies fetched over $120,000 at auction. Yes, 6 figures. For a penny. And if by some miracle this coin was struck on a foreign planchet, meaning it was accidentally printed on the wrong metal disc, the price could soar to over $300,000. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's nuts. It's just a penny. But that's exactly why people overlook it. This coin has fooled millions. It hides in jars, drawers, estate boxes, waiting to be found. Even this exact one in your image, with its clean rim, strong visible date, and no obvious deep damage, would easily be worth $50 to $300 just as is to the right buyer. But the moment an error is verified, that's when things get wild. Collectors over the age of 50 are hunting these down like buried treasure. And for good reason. These pennies aren't just relics, they're gold mines. So the next time you see a 1937 wheat penny like this, don't just toss it aside. Look deeper. That little copper coin could be the key to a brand new truck, or a luxury vacation, or even a down payment on a house. And trust me, we're just getting started. Next up, a coin so rare, so controversial, it sparked FBI investigations. You don't want to miss this. Healing, rebuilding, and entering a new age of industry, railroads, and reconstruction. The years 1869 to 1877 marked a dramatic turning point in American history. And tucked away in that time period is a coin that, even in circulated condition, could leave you stunned. We're talking about the Ulysses S. Grant presidential era, and believe it or not, coins from this exact window are hiding some of the most mind-blowing errors and values ever recorded. This isn't just about a coin, it's about a piece of metal that lived through the smoke and dust of Reconstruction and emerged with a 6-figure story written all over it. Let's set the stage. Ulysses S. Grant, war hero, 2-term president, symbol of post-war recovery, his presidency saw new mints open, old ones struggling, and coin production in total flux. Between 1869 and 1877, the U.S. Mint faced extreme pressure to increase coinage output, and that meant mistakes slipped through the cracks. Big ones. Now imagine finding a battered, grimy old coin from this era.
Something that's been through pocket change, maybe buried, maybe stored in a mason jar in a barn for 100 years. You think it's just another relic, but then you take a closer look. That's what happened in 2021 when a man in Minnesota brought a coin from 1871 into a coin show. It was in rough shape, obverse was worn, reverse looked smoothed out, and the rim was nicked beyond belief. But under magnification, appraisers discovered a quadruple die clash, meaning the coin had been struck 4 times with slightly misaligned dies, creating a ghostly stacked image of the reverse on both sides. That damaged coin sold at auction for $463,000. Here's another shocker. A well-worn 1873 coin with what looked like scratches across the date turned out to be one of only 3 known examples of the closed 3, open 3 transitional variety. A design change so subtle, most people miss it entirely. This one had heavy surface wear, dark toning, and rim damage, but still pulled in a staggering $439,000. Let's talk about metal too. During Grant's presidency, some coins were mistakenly struck on foreign planchets, leftover blanks intended for trade coinage or experimental strikes. A few Grant-era coins have been found made of nickel-silver alloy instead of standard bronze or copper. These oddities can go completely unnoticed until someone weighs them. One worn-down 1875 coin struck on an off-metal planchet sold for $382,000, even with deep scratches and heavy oxidation. So how do you know if you're sitting on one of these hidden fortunes? Here's what to look for. Strange toning or coloring, like a silvery gray on a coin that should be bronze. Odd thickness or weight, possibly from wrong planchet errors. Blurry or ghosted images. Next up, a coin that might seem ordinary at first glance, but hang on tight, because the truth behind this one could leave your jaw on the floor. We're talking about the 1950 Lincoln wheat penny. Yep. Just a humble little penny, but don't blink, because the value hiding behind this date has shocked collectors again and again. This coin right here, as you can see, has been around the block. It's in circulated condition, worn down, flattened in spots, but still holding that iconic profile of Abraham Lincoln, staring confidently to the right. The words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1950 are all there. Faint, but holding on through decades of pocket change journeys. But here's the twist. While millions of 1950 pennies were minted, it's the errors and perfect condition survivors that turned this common coin into a massive payday. Let's talk numbers. In average circulated condition like this, most 1950 wheat pennies go for about 5 to 25 cents. Not exciting yet, right? But now comes the storm. If you find a 1950 penny in uncirculated condition, with that fiery red-orange mint luster still shining like the day it left the press, that same coin could sell for $1,500 to $5,000, depending on the grading. Still not shocked? Here's where it gets wild. Some 1950 Lincoln cents were struck with dramatic off-center errors, die breaks, or repunched mint marks. One coin with a heavy die crack across Lincoln's head, they call it the Lightning Strike Lincoln, sold for over $9,000. And the king of them all? A rare 1950 D over S mint mark error. That's when the Denver Mint accidentally struck over a San Francisco mint mark, can push into $30,000 to $45,000 at auction, or more if it's in pristine shape. This circulated coin here likely wouldn't fetch that. But imagine it had a hidden error you haven't spotted yet, just one oddity, a doubled die, a misstrike, a repunched date, and suddenly your old coin jar find becomes a collector's dream. Here's something to remember. Many of these high-value coins weren't found in museums or private vaults. They were found in grandma's cookie jar, in garage sales, or while going through old family change. So don't ever toss aside a 1950 wheat penny, especially one with visible flaws or a strange look. And if you're lucky enough to find one in mint red condition, untouched by time, you could be staring at an auction prize worth more than $10,000. That's the thrill of it. Ordinary coins hiding extraordinary secrets. And we're just getting started. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because the next coin on this list, it's even crazier, especially around lettering. And now we come to the final coin on our list, and let me tell you, we're ending on a shocking high note.
This piece comes from the golden years of the California gold rush, and its date range, 1849 to 1850, makes it one of the most emotionally powerful and historically loaded coins in American numismatics. It may look plain, it may be worn, it may even seem worthless at first glance. But don't be fooled, because this circulated coin could very realistically be worth over $525,000, maybe even more. Let's go back in time. The year is 1849. President Zachary Taylor, old, rough and ready, is newly elected. Tens of thousands of fortune seekers are rushing westward in search of gold. And with that explosive migration came the need for more coins, faster production, and in many cases, a lot of minting mistakes. The U.S. Mint, struggling to keep up, began producing commemorative and unofficial presidential tokens and medallions to meet demand and capitalize on public sentiment. Some of these were struck using leftover dies, some were struck on gold coin blanks, and some, get this, were privately made but accidentally mixed into official U.S. Mint shipments. Now, what happens when one of those rare crossover coins survives? Even in poor, worn, dented condition, it becomes the Holy Grail. One such coin, a President Zachary Taylor 1850 dated token struck on a lightweight gold alloy blank, was found in a box of old church donations in Ohio in 2018. It was darkened with age, scratched to the point that most of the reverse was missing, and dented along the rim. But it had one thing no one expected. A double date stamp, 1849 overlapping 1850, a transitional error from a reused die during Taylor's funeral year. That coin, in a condition most dealers would pass up without a second glance, sold at auction for a staggering $512,000. Another example, this one from a farmer's shed in Kentucky, was even more mysterious. It bore an 1850 date, but instead of the standard Liberty reverse, it showed an unfinished eagle design. Experts later concluded it was part of an abandoned minting series that was halted after Taylor's death. The coin, almost completely worn smooth, but authenticated, and sold for $487,000. And it doesn't stop there. Some coins from this era were struck on California gold blanks, privately sourced and cut down to size by regional mints or early government contractors. These planchettes were often impure, leading to strange textures, colors, and thicknesses. If you're holding a Taylor-era coin that seems too yellow, too thin, or too soft, you may be looking at a Gold Rush hybrid coin worth over $500,000. Here's what to check. Double date overlays, especially 1849 and 1850 combined. Off-metal appearance like deep yellow tone or silver gray sheen. Reverse design errors, mismatched symbols, unfinished eagle or incorrect lettering. Incorrect weight, especially lighter than expected coins. Now, here's the part. Hold up, what you're looking at right now might not look like much. It's beat up, it's worn down, most would toss it aside, never thinking twice. But this is a 1918 Lincoln wheat penny, and that date alone should stop you in your tracks. Let me explain why. This coin was minted over 100 years ago, during the final year of World War I. Imagine the world back then, soldiers overseas, telegrams buzzing, and this very penny, fresh off the press, starting its journey. Now, fast forward to today. Most 1918 pennies, especially in this condition, are just history in your hand. In rough shape like this, it might fetch around 50 cents to $2 depending on the buyer. But that's just the beginning. There's a hidden side to the 1918 penny world, and it's a collector's minefield in the best way. If you spot a 1918D, Denver Mint, or 1918S, San Francisco Mint, in high grade, we're talking AU58 or MS condition, values explode to 100, 300, even over 1,000. But the real treasure? The 1918 double die obverse, one of the rarest and most prized errors. Lincoln's features and the date appear doubled, like a shadow image. One of these has fetched over $3,000 at auction. There are also off-center strikes, broad strikes, and die cracks in some 1918 coins, and any of these can multiply the value tenfold or more. Now, is this particular coin we're holding worth thousands? Probably not. It's seen a century of wear, and time has done its damage. But here's the thing. Even the worst-looking 1918 coin holds history, mystery, and potential.
And unless you inspect it closely, under magnification, under light, you might never know what secrets it's hiding. That's the heart of coin collecting. It's not about the shine, it's about the story and the surprise. So don't ever ignore a battered old penny, especially not one like this, because if it's a rare die error, or even just the right mint mark in the right grade, it could be the ugliest coin you've ever found, and still worth hundreds. Coming up next, we've got a coin from the 1940s that may seem common, but one tiny detail could make it a $10,000 jackpot. Stick around. You won't want to miss this.
Perfect. Here's the gripping script